Hello, it's Helen at Viva. How are we? I hope you're feeling well. I'm feeling a bit tired today actually. I think my brain has had quite a lot to absorb today. For some reason not quite as energetic in my brain. I think possibly lack of food actually. So never misjudge how much food you need for your brain power. So tonight, it's a bit of a thoughtful Thursday. We've had a theme this week on health and happiness, kind of very much linked together. And there's a lot of awareness at the moment on mental health, isn't there? So your state of mind really does drive the health of your body. So we've been looking at ways and means of staying happy so that will ultimately in the long term improve your health. And so we did some tips during the beginning of the week. And so I'm carrying on with that tonight. Things that might appear obvious, but maybe you're just not, doing them, and you kind of could be improving your happiness and, as a consequence, your health. So, very simply, already mentioned, is the fact that, what are you eating? Are you eating the kind of foods that make you feel good, that keep your energy levels up, that give you that brain food? I do think you need to look at what you're eating, because if you have a lot of sugar in your diet, sugar doesn't really, it might give you an instant kick, but then you get a big slump after, and that can actually make you feel quite low. So that we want to kind of get away from too much sugar in our diet. Not necessarily we're talking about natural sugars, but just the sugar comes from the processed food, the biscuits, the cakes, that kind of thing. Just be aware of how much sugar is going in your diet, because sugar does, as I said, it doesn't seem to lift your spirits very much. And what we want this week is to try and stay kind of fairly upbeat, fairly positive, because that's going to have a really good effect on our overall health. So cooking from scratch, great way to try and avoid too much processed sugar. All the sauces that you get in jars and tins, you can make them yourself, and it doesn't really take that long. I've become quite a master now at cheese sauce for lasagna. Instead of just buying the jar, I do it from scratch now, and it doesn't take, it's a couple of minutes really. Just got to have that basic batch of ingredients in your fridge. So tip for sort of brain food is cook from scratch, try and watch your sugar intake. We're talking about health, happiness being very closely linked, and so these are some tips on trying to improve your emotional state or your positivity. And then we're looking at being more adaptable and flexible about things. If you're very rigid in your goal setting or how you do stuff, you're going to find you get disappointed, because it's really hard to be perfect, and perfect isn't that much fun, I wouldn't have thought. So I would just be very prepared for, not worst case scenario, but don't always look at, give yourself leeway. Maybe 8 out of 10 is acceptable. It gets the job done. So be more adaptable, more flexible in what you're doing day to day, and maybe in some of your goal setting as well, because then you're not going to have such a big, oh gosh, I didn't do it. And we want to get away from that real slump into negative thinking. So we're talking health and happiness and tips to keep you more upbeat on what you're sort of doing generally day to day. And then we could look at maybe having a bit of a phone holiday, a bit of an information technology break. I think sometimes stress can come from what you're reading and absorbing from the sort of external environment, from Facebook, from social media. And our brain gets a bit buzzy, it doesn't get a downtime. So maybe take a switch off from your phones. Don't have them right next to the bed. I know they're a good alarm, but maybe move them further away, and just have a shut off time when you are not on that phone, you're not checking up on what everyone else is doing, because it will have an impact on your sort of well-being. And then we want to maybe think about the whole worrying factor. Do you go to bed and you start worrying about everything that's either gone on in the day or that's going to happen the next day? If you're a sort of natural born worrier, start looking at worst case scenario and then kind of work backwards from that, because really the worst case scenario is never that bad. It's not usually life threatening. So try and get proportion, try not to go into, oh no, if this doesn't happen then there's going to be a major trauma. It's not often the case. So maybe try and get the worrying down a notch and start to look at the bigger those things that maybe are worthwhile worrying about, and the things that aren't really worthwhile worrying about, you know. I think this is where my husband and I kind of tend to disagree, because things like the cleaning, the ironing, they'll get done. I'm not going to worry too much about not getting them done this week, because I haven't allocated to do them right now. I'm going to fit them in around things that I consider a little bit more important than those very mundane general things. So just get proportion about what you're actually worrying about. So it's all about health and happiness tonight. And then maybe sort of go slower with some of the stuff that you're doing. Don't be in such a rush to get through things so that you're not really enjoying it. You're just focusing on getting on to the next thing. So, because, you know, there can be a lot of stuff you're missing out on. Things, you know, maybe that you're doing with family, or you're doing with friends, or with your kids, because you're rushing on to the next thing. Don't make your life too busy. Get a bit more scheduling going on. Give yourself more time. We don't need to be just rush. And as I said, you're kind of missing out on maybe seeing things like the big picture of things and enjoying things. So just take it a bit more slowly in all aspects of your life, and try and enjoy the moment a bit more. So on that note, the doorbell has just gone now, so I'm going to love you and leave you. So please feel free to like and share, and I will be back on tomorrow after the next part of my biomechanics. Have a great evening. See you later.